Brian Schottenheimer has always been known as a coach who keeps his cool, a strategist who focuses on preparation, execution, and accountability. But even the calmest coaches reach a breaking point when their team's potential is being sabotaged from within. That moment came this week when Schottenheimer finally lost his patience and revealed what he called a major problem within the Dallas Cowboys organization. It wasn't a single play, not one bad game, and not just a few missed assignments. It was something deeper, something that has been brewing for weeks, and when he spoke, the tone of his words made it clear that he was done sugarcoating things. Standing at the podium after another frustrating loss, his voice carried the kind of frustration that only builds when a coach knows his team is capable of so much more. The Cowboys had entered this season with one of the most balanced rosters in the league, Dak Prescott leading an offense that could score in chunks, CeeDee Lamb emerging as a top-tier receiver, Tony Pollard breaking through defenses, and a line that had been rebuilt to protect and dominate. On defense, Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs were supposed to be the cornerstones of a unit feared across the league. On paper, everything looked perfect. But the games aren't played on paper, they're played on the field, and that's where Schottenheimer saw the cracks forming. In recent weeks, the Cowboys' performance has been marked by a troubling pattern: self-inflicted wounds. False starts in key moments, holding penalties that wiped out big plays, missed tackles that turned short gains into touchdowns. It's the kind of stuff that drives coaches crazy because it's not about talent, it's about focus, discipline, and accountability. Schottenheimer has mentioned these issues before in more controlled tones, trying to push improvement without turning the locker room upside down, but this time he couldn't hold it in. After another loss where the Cowboys committed double-digit penalties and allowed multiple explosive plays on defense, he walked into the post-game interview room, looked visibly upset, and said, "Enough is enough. We're not going to win football games playing this kind of undisciplined ball. The standard here has not been met." Those words hit like a thunderclap across the Cowboys fanbase. This wasn't just a coach calling out a single player, this was a head coach calling out his entire operation. He followed it with a line that summed up his frustration perfectly: "I don't care about stats, I don't care about yards, I don't care about individual numbers. You can take those and throw them out the window. All I care about is winning, and right now, we're not playing winning football." That's when everyone realized this wasn't a normal week of post-game comments. Schottenheimer had reached the point where he had to shine a light on what he believes is the Cowboys' biggest problem: an internal lack of discipline and attention to detail that has turned a championship-caliber team into an inconsistent one. And he's not wrong. When you look at the Cowboys' games this season, they've been a team of extremes. One week, they look unstoppable, lighting up the scoreboard and shutting down opponents with relentless energy. The next, they look disorganized, confused, and disconnected. That kind of inconsistency doesn't come from talent, it comes from the culture and habits being built day by day. Schottenheimer knows that, and that's why his words carried so much weight. He's been around the league long enough to know that talent can only carry a team so far before the cracks of inconsistency and complacency show. In his eyes, the Cowboys have been flirting with those cracks for too long. Behind the scenes, it's easy to imagine what's been going through his mind. Coaches live and breathe preparation. They spend sleepless nights watching film, studying tendencies, building game plans. When they see the same mistakes happening over and over, the same offsides penalties, the same defensive miscommunications, the same failure to capitalize in the red zone, it becomes infuriating. Schottenheimer's offensive system is built on rhythm and precision, but that rhythm keeps breaking because of unforced errors. He's seeing drives stall because of holding calls, drives die because of dropped passes, and defensive stops erased because of unnecessary roughness flags. When that happens repeatedly, even the best strategy in the world can't save a team. That's why Schottenheimer's outburst wasn't just emotion, it was a demand for accountability. He's been saying behind closed doors that discipline has to come from within, not just from coaching. Players have to take ownership. He can call plays, he can set expectations, but he can't stop a lineman from jumping early or a defender from taking a bad angle. That has to come from a locker room that holds itself to a higher standard. And that, in his eyes, is where the Cowboys are falling short. They've got leaders. Dak Prescott is respected, Micah Parsons is passionate, and others like Zach Martin lead by example, but the unity between offense and defense, the sense that everyone is playing for one another and not just themselves, hasn't fully clicked. That's what Schottenheimer meant when he said the standard wasn't being met. It wasn't just about missed assignments, it was about mindset. Now, this type of public frustration can go one of two ways. It can fracture a locker room, turning players against their coach, or it can ignite a fire that brings everyone together. Based on Schottenheimer's approach, he's banking on the latter. His reputation has always been built on being a player's coach, someone who understands how to motivate through both honesty and support. When he raises his voice or delivers criticism, it's because he believes the team is capable of more. He's not pointing fingers out of spite, he's pointing them because he knows they can fix it. And in the Cowboys' current situation, that kind of message might be exactly what's needed. The NFL season is long and grueling, but it's also a series of turning points. Sometimes a team's identity changes not after a win, but after a moment of confrontation, when the truth gets aired out and the players decide what kind of team they want to be. Schottenheimer's decision to speak so candidly about the team's issues was, in many ways, a challenge. He's putting the responsibility squarely on everyone's shoulders. He's daring his players to prove him wrong, to respond with toughness and urgency. And it's not just about fixing penalties or tightening defensive coverage, it's about redefining who the Cowboys are as a football team. For years, fans have said the same thing about Dallas: they have the talent, but they lack the killer instinct. They can win the flashy games, but when things get gritty and tough, they sometimes crumble under pressure. Schottenheimer doesn't want to be another coach in that cycle. He's trying to break it by holding everyone accountable, even himself. He's admitted that coaching decisions need to be sharper and that adjustments have to come faster. That kind of humility paired with intensity is what separates great coaches from temporary ones. That's why his frustration, while explosive, might also be the most important thing to happen to the Cowboys this season. It's a sign that the excuses are over, that the culture is being tested, and that winning is no longer optional, it's expected. Schottenheimer's passion is contagious. Players who care will respond, and those who don't will be exposed. That's how teams evolve. That's how good rosters become great ones. The Cowboys are standing at that crossroads right now. They can continue letting mistakes define them, or they can take this moment as the spark that redefines their identity. For Schottenheimer, losing his patience wasn't about losing control, it was about finally forcing the team to confront the truth. And sometimes, that's exactly what's needed to wake up a sleeping giant. So, as the Cowboys prepare for their next game, all eyes will be on how they respond to their coach's challenge. Will they play sharper, smarter, more focused football? Will the penalties stop? Will the defense step up and match the offense's energy? The answers to those questions will tell us whether this outburst was just a headline or a true turning point. One thing is certain: Brian Schottenheimer has made it clear that he's not here to babysit egos or settle for second place.